This is the News 4 Rundown.
Good evening and welcome to the News 4 Rundown. I'm Sean Yancey. It is Monday, April 6th. Here's a look at some of the stories we're following tonight. Just months into her term as Virginia's first woman governor, Abigail Spanberger is not receiving the best reviews from her constituents. A look at a recent poll shows a deep divide in the Commonwealth. Also coming up, TikToks, the new campaign to help increase awareness about the parasites and the special tool to help the community deal with ticks. And then the shot heard around Fredericksburg, Virginia. The University of Mary Washington's men's basketball team made history over the weekend. We'll hear from the man who helped his team become national champions. We begin tonight in space. In just the past 30 minutes, the Artemis II crew reached its furthest point from Earth. It's estimated the Orion spacecraft reached more than 252,000 miles away from Earth. These are live images right now from NASA TV. Mission Control just regained signal with the crew. We can see some of them moving around inside. The connection was lost as they made their way around to the far side of the moon. Before they reached the moon, the crew surpassed the previous record for the furthest distance traveled from Earth by humans. They also sent back a message to mark this momentous day.
Yeah, from the cabin of integrity here as we surpass the furthest distance humans have ever traveled from planet Earth. We do so in honoring the extraordinary efforts and feats of our predecessors in human space exploration.
By the way, that previous record set back in 1970 when the Apollo 13 crew traveled more than 248,000 miles from Earth. Now, the Artemis II astronauts still have a long way to go before their mission is complete. Astrophysicist and City University of New York professor Emily Rice joins us now to discuss this historic flight. Professor Rice, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
That was so exciting as we were looking at those live images right there. They just regained contact there with Mission Control. We shared that the crew made history today by going further into space than any human has gone before. What are your big takeaways as you've watched this mission unfold?
This has been nothing short of historic. I was listening in this morning when the astronauts woke up, so it was a little bit later than I woke up. But what they do is they get a wake-up song from Mission Control, and then they get a message. And this morning they had a message from Jim Lovell, the Apollo astronaut who passed away last year, had recorded a message for them. That was just wonderful. And then to know that everything after they passed that Apollo 13 distance record earlier today, everything after that is historic. And so it's just been amazing to see everything they've done. And today especially, they were taking pictures of the far side of the moon, guided by a lot of planetary scientists at Mission Control in Houston. And so that was also really, really cool to watch, knowing how much science and how much discovery is going to come out of these photographs that humans are taking of the far side of the moon for the first time in 54 years. Just astounding.
I can hear the excitement in your voice as you're talking about this. I was just thinking about it, for what was it, roughly 40 minutes or so, they did not have any contact with Mission Control. And I'm thinking how scary that had to be. What do you think they were experiencing or feeling up there?
I can only imagine, but I can't imagine that those 40 minutes, like just the silence and the contemplation. I want to know what they did. Maybe they did karaoke, who knows? But just, the profound thoughts that they've been sharing with us for the last 6 days. It's kind of wonderful to think that they had those 40 minutes together as a crew to be, quiet, radio silence from Earth for a little while.
Absolutely. We know the astronauts themselves will experience a total solar eclipse in the next hour. Many of us remember that last total solar eclipse we had back here in 2024. We wore special glasses so we could get a glimpse of it. What will this be like for the astronauts? Are they going to have some sort of special equipment that they're going to use?
Yeah, they're going to also have to wear those glasses. So they're not too much like closer or further away from the sun than we were. That's only a tiny, tiny fraction of how far away they are. But they don't have the atmosphere blocking just any amount of that sunlight. And so it might not be as fully dramatic because they're so much closer to the moon. But I imagine it's going to be a very, very cool experience.
Wow. All right. Break down for me, if you will, what NASA is ultimately hoping to learn from this trip to the moon, and also how it will help future Artemis missions.
Yeah, so much of this mission is about the humans. I've said the astronauts are both the scientists and to a certain extent the subjects for this mission. So they're not only studying the moon and their space capsule, but they're studying themselves and their own bodies, how they react to being in microgravity, how they deal with health and exercise, and how their bodies respond to the stress in this capsule. And this is something that, again, humans haven't done for decades. And so this is being tested. A huge amount of data is being collected with the view of repeating this. So Artemis III will probably stay in low Earth orbit, but Artemis IV is hoping to take people back to the moon and land there. Eventually, we hope to have a base on the moon. And NASA has said before that the moon is really the first step in getting to Mars with humans as well, which just would be very, very exciting.
Let me go back for a second. You were talking about the physical impact on the body, that they're studying it themselves. What are some of the things they might experience? We're used to watching TV shows and Star Trek, and everybody seems fine. What might they be experiencing?
Yeah, from the moment they get into low G, actually, what I've heard is that it's there's first the G forces from launch, which that they can test for, that goes into the astronaut training. But once they get into microgravity, that's a lot harder. And they do a lot of testing in the neutral buoyancy lab, the NASA's big swimming pool. But, they don't do it for 10 days at a time. And so you can already see the difference in the astronauts' faces. Like once they're up there for a little while, everybody's face gets a little bit puffy. I've heard that your sinuses can get a little bit congested because you don't have gravity pulling any of your fluids down. There was one first-time flyer up there, and so sometimes it takes your body a little bit longer. I'm sure they had their barf bags ready to fill up and jettison if need be. But there's longer-term effects on our bodies that we don't fully understand. Sure. And so they're exercising while they're up there. They're testing new exercise equipment that they have. They're also studying their stem cells. They have organs on a chip, or their own stem cell tissue that's on little devices that they're taking into microgravity, and then they'll bring those back down. And there's the effects of radiation, all sorts of things that we can do science on with that data.
So fascinating. I hope you will come back and join us again. I really appreciate your perspective. Astrophysicist and City University of New York professor Emily Rice, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, here's a look at the other top stories we're following. A federal judge ordered the Trump administration to make the contract for the new White House ballroom public. The ruling gives officials 2 weeks to turn over the agreement between the National Park Service, the National Historic Trust for Historic Preservation, and the White House. The president said the entire project will be paid for by donations. Comcast, the parent company of NBC4, is one of the ballroom project donors. We could also find out as soon as next week if work on a proposed DHS ICE facility in Washington County, Maryland, will be allowed to begin. A federal judge issued a temporary restraining order to stop renovations on the controversial facility after Maryland's attorney general sued to stop it. A DHS spokesperson told News 4 it would conduct more studies before any retrofitting at the warehouse would begin. And in the wake of the Trump administration's mass deportations and immigration enforcement, Montgomery County is now holding a citizenship clinic. It's open to anyone who is a lawful resident and eligible to apply for U.S. citizenship to receive free legal advice. The clinic is Saturday, April 11th from 2 to 6 p.m. at the Wheaton Community Rec Center. The city of Alexandria tonight mourning the loss of Marion Van Landingham. She was an artist, lawmaker, community builder, and the founder of the Torpedo Factory. Van Landingham also served in the Virginia House of Delegates for 24 years. She died Saturday at the age of 88. Well, tonight, a new poll in the state of Virginia reveals a deep political divide. The Washington Post Schar School poll found that Governor Abigail Spanberger's approval rating is much lower than many of her predecessors just a few months into her administration. Washington Post polling director Scott Clement joins us now with a closer look at what the numbers mean. Scott, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
We know that Virginia is now a purple state, Northern Virginia blue, Southern Virginia typically red. So the political divide here is no surprise. But break down the numbers for us and explain why the results are unusual at this point in the governor's term.
That's right. So our poll found 47% of Virginia registered voters approve of the way Abigail Spanberger is handling her job. Nearly as many, 46%, disapprove. might say that's a totally fine rating, divided country, divided state, but it's very unusual for Virginia. In fact, it's 13 percentage points below the average for Virginia governors in post-polling back to the 1990s. The closest analogs really are Glenn Youngkin. He was narrowly popular last September, and Ralph Northam amid a scandal.
Virginia, the numbers certainly are incredibly interesting, and I want to ask you this right off the top. We know that the governor hasn't had a lot of time for her policies to take place. What are voters responding to negatively and positively so far?
Right. So our poll asked a few questions about this. I mean, one is the basic question of affordability. It's an issue she ran on. It's an issue she's pushed a series of bills to try to improve affordability in the state, and there's a really mixed result. More voters in the state think her policies will make Virginia less affordable than make it more affordable in general. Though we asked about eight different policies she's proposed, and on 6 of them, more people think that those will make the state more affordable than less affordable. To me, that says people aren't very familiar with some of these specifics. It's possible that they've gotten lost, amidst a pretty far-reaching but still, pretty technical agenda. The other elephant in the room is really just the redistricting referendum, which has taken up an enormous amount of oxygen in the first few months. And she's been reluctant to endorse it, but now is fully endorsing it. And it's a response to efforts by Republicans and Trump in other states to maximize the number of congressional districts for Republicans. But it is still a very partisan act in a way. It's going to be directly beneficial to Democrats if it passes.
And do you think, though, that the redistricting effort and her endorsement could have an impact on the numbers that we're seeing?
I think it could, and I don't think we've seen all of it yet, because people are still just paying attention to that redistricting referendum, and being involved in a fierce partisan fight like that, even if it's seen as necessary by many voters, it really makes it difficult for her to rise above the fray and say that she is a bipartisan or really moderate candidate when she's pushing a pretty hard line on that line front.
Scott, let me ask you, we know that Abigail Spanberger is the first woman governor of the state of Virginia. Could that also play a role in these poll numbers?
Certainly. It's really hard to rule out. As you mentioned, she's the first female governor. We don't have an analog there. And certainly, anecdotally, the attacks have been pretty remarkable. I can just say the response to this story has been pretty remarkable, unusual, I think, for a governor's first approval rating. So there's a lot of passion right now, and I think that's probably a part of it. It's also the backdrop of Trump in the midst of an Iran war. The feelings are running pretty hot right now in politics.
Well, we know you guys will continue to follow this, and as we know, polls change all throughout the year, from week to week, from month to month. But Washington Post polling director Scott Clement, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
Certainly. Thanks for having me.
And the News 4 Rundown will be right back. But first, let's check in with Amelia to find out what it'll feel like when we step outside tomorrow morning.
And here's a look at your wake-up weather for tomorrow during the early morning hours. It's chilly. Temperatures in the 40s. By the mid to late morning hours, we're in the 50s with breezy winds. Definitely need to grab the jacket as you step out the door on your Tuesday. I'll have my full forecast after the break.
All right, we're back now with something called Tick Talks. And not the kind you're probably thinking about. The talks are part of a brand new campaign the Alexandria Health Department just launched. It's designed to arm people with information so they can tackle a tick if they happen to pick one up while hiking or playing outside. As Northern Virginia Bureau Chief Julie Carey reports, the group is also handing out a special tool to both remove and identify the potentially dangerous creatures.
These are the signs that just popped up around some Alexandria hiking trails and playgrounds. They tell people how to do tick checks after they've been outdoors. And these are the Alexandria Health Department workers executing the new campaign. They've created some very clever slogans.
We are the Tick Chicks. We do not want ticks to stick, and we'll be doing our TikToks this summer.
Did you catch all that? The Tick Chicks want to help folks make sure ticks don't stick. So in the Tick Talks they'll be doing at different events, they'll tell folks where to look.
If one does stick to you, it's in the ankles, where the fabric meets the skin as well, around the sleeves, in the hair, and so we'll teach people how to check for ticks.
The women say this campaign is aimed at slowing the spread of disease carried by ticks.
We've seen an uptick in Lyme disease since 2020. Lyme disease is primarily transferred by the black-legged deer tick. The other one to be really concerned about is alpha-gal syndrome, otherwise known as the red meat allergy. It comes from the Lone Star tick.
And this tool may be the new secret weapon. The size of a credit card, it can help identify and remove ticks. There are 2 notches sized to remove both adult ticks and the smaller nymphs, with directions on the right way to do it.
So you take the notch, you would slide it underneath the tick and pull it straight out like that. You don't want to be scraping it out. You don't want to just like go in and pull it out willy-nilly. You want to make sure you're getting the mouth parts.
Next step, Tick ID. This magnifier gives a close-up view. Snap a photo and using a QR code, send it in.
Okay, so you can input the tick, you can upload a picture. It goes to tick experts in the state, and they'll get back to you, let you know what kind of tick it is, what disease risks are associated with it, what should you go to your doctor.
This mom biking in Chinquapin Park today says her family camps and has found ticks. She thinks the tick education campaign is a good idea.
I think a lot of people don't realize that ticks can be quite dangerous and that they should check themselves if they've been in a place where ticks could be. So education is great.
The bottom line goal of the campaign, that between the Tick Talks and these cards, that people will feel confident, not afraid to walk in the woods or play outside, and know they have the tools to take on any ticks they might encounter. In Alexandria, I'm Julie Carey, News 4. By the way, those tick cards will be available at the Alexandria Health Department Tick Talks and also at their offices. Okay, so my husband went out to walk the dog this morning. He was like, ooh, it's a lot colder than it looked because it was sunny outside.
Yeah, chilly this morning, and it's going to be colder these next few days. In fact, so much so that the National Weather Service is already alerted for the potential of frost and freeze concerns Wednesday morning. So that's going to be one of your weather headlines. Temperatures today warmed into the low 60s. Our high at Reagan National was 63, but tomorrow, Wednesday, temperatures only warming into the 50s. And again, Wednesday morning will be the coldest time period. That being said, I'm tracking dry conditions for days. I don't even have our next chance of rain in the forecast until next Wednesday. And by the way, next week, the heat returns, tracking temperatures that feel more like June than April next Monday and Tuesday. Now, here is the latest on the freeze watch. So this goes into effect tomorrow night, Tuesday night. It's going to run through Wednesday morning for the counties along and west of I-95, except for the higher elevations of the Blue Ridge. But bottom line, if you're in any of these counties and you've already put sensitive plants out, you either want to cover them or bring them indoors tomorrow night on into Wednesday morning. Temperatures right now in the 50s and low 60s, 61 in Washington, 56 over in Annapolis, 57 degrees up in Frederick. Our temperatures continue to cool by tomorrow morning. We're in the 40s, so it's going to be chilly again stepping out the door on your Tuesday morning. Probably have the heat turned back on in your house and car after a few days of needing the air conditioning. By lunchtime tomorrow, we're only in the low 50s, and at best, our high temperature tomorrow is 56 degrees. But we do have plenty of sunshine in the forecast. But 56 and breezy winds throughout the day. You definitely need the spring jacket and keep it around for Wednesday as well, with a high temperature on Wednesday of 54. You can see our average high 65. So by Thursday, we're more seasonable. Friday is looking wonderful. A high temperature of 72 degrees and plenty of sunshine. So quiet weather this week, just feeling the chill these next few days. But speaking to the quiet weather, our area right now is under a moderate drought, which is a level 2 out of 5, 5 being the most severe. And we're looking at a string of dry days. So we could see our drought conditions worsen. That being said, it's phenomenal on Friday, and that nice weather sticks around for the upcoming weekend. Saturday and Sunday, we have high temperatures in the low 70s. And then our temperatures continue to increase, 84 on Monday, 87 by next Tuesday.
Thanks, Amelia. Stick around. The News 4 Rundown will be right back after this break.
UCLA is back on top of the women's basketball world.
For For the first time in NCAA era, the UCLA women are the national basketball champions. The Bruins dominated South Carolina Sunday with the help of local star Kiki Rice. The Sidwell Friends alum is now a national champion. Rice, a senior, was one of the key players for the Bruins. Before she was hitting buzzer-beating threes in the NCAA title game, she helped lead Sidwell Friends to an undefeated season during her senior year in high school. Kiki, if you remember, was the Gatorade National Player of the Year that season. And what a way to cap off her college career with a national title.
Today was just a fantastic display of our resilience and the intensity that we came out with, just our will to win. And we knew, we had a feeling like this was our time, this was our year. And, we came out there this entire weekend and just we would not be denied.
Definitely her time. Congrats again, Kiki. She's expected to be a top 10 pick in the WNBA draft coming up next Monday. Well, March Madness comes to a close tonight with the men's national championship game between Michigan and UConn. Now, we already have plenty to celebrate, though, as the University of Mary Washington won the school's first ever national championship last night in the Division III men's title game. And they did it with a game-winning buzzer beater. Northern Virginia Bureau reporter Drew Wilder has the story.
Robinson, 5 seconds, goes to his left for the win. No, Mitchell's putback is good. Mary Washington, oh boy.
March Madness never disappoints. The thrill of the buzzer beater leaving a small piece of history on the hardwood. For the first time in school history, the University of Mary Washington is a Division III college basketball champion, and it was nothing short of breathtaking.
One timeout, Faust to tie the game. Oh, yeah!
Emory University tied the game at 73 with 11 seconds left to play. The Eagles with a chance. A miss goes to overtime. Hit a shot, a March Madness masterpiece.
No, Mitchell's putback is good. They will review it, but UNW has its masterpiece.
Go, Wash! Let's go!
Monday evening, a bus of students who traveled to the game returned back to campus.
Everyone was just like screaming their heads off. It was amazing. It was awesome.
I don't think too many people had heard of UMW before this, but I think now they know.
This was just the 9th two-point field goal sophomore Colin Mitchell made all season. The Chesterfield native averaged 3.2 points per game this year. The biggest two in the final breath of the biggest game he's ever played.
How many times have you watched that video, and does it feel real yet?
So many times. I mean, through family, friends, alumni, social media. I've seen it everywhere I've looked on my phone. So it's been a crazy experience.
The national championship caps off a record-setting season in which the team's 30 wins are the most in program history. Alexandria native Kai Robinson played all 40 minutes and led the Eagles in scoring with 27.
Kai Robinson, the All-American, beats him off the dribble and lays it in.
Caden Bates from Bristow, the Patriot High School grad, with a double-double, 10 points and 10 rebounds.
From the left side, Caden Bates.
Coach, you're a national champion now. You led this team to the most wins in program history. What's the legacy for this team?
Well, I love that first part, saying national champion in front of my name and our team and all of that. And I think I hope that is the legacy, that we were the first to do it here at UMW. Hopefully not the last. Hopefully we can keep this ball rolling.
That's not just a goal, but it's likely an expectation, because Mary Washington won this year's title without a single senior on their roster and could bring every player back next year. Reporting in Fredericksburg, Drew Wilder, News 4.
Congratulations. Maybe they can do it again next year. Fingers crossed for them for sure. Well, that will do it for us for the News 4 Rundown on this Monday night. We hope you will be back here to join Jim and me for News 4 at 11. Thanks again for joining us. Have a great night, everybody.